You're listening to the Business Marketing Show, episode number 75. You can find us at businessmarketingshow.com on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Stitcher. Hi everyone, this is Ed Keay-Smith from the Business Marketing Show, here with my co-host Brendan Tully, and today we are going to be doing an episode on all about starting a digital marketing agency and what that encompasses and what you should look into and think about before going down that path. So Brendan, how are you, mate? Good to have you on the podcast as usual.
It's great to be here, Ed. Thank you.
Yes, we've just been working out some technical things, as we always do, getting some stuff sorted. Brendan's got a new laptop. He's been having some fun with that, getting it nutted out. So we thought something different would be to talk about what it's actually like running a digital marketing agency, seeing as Brendan and I both run our own agencies, and how we got started and what is involved in doing that. So let's get cracking.
Yeah, I guess I don't know about you, but I had been, especially lately, I think, or this year, several times I've had conversations about people who either already have agencies and they're looking to change direction or do more online stuff, or people who've just started web agencies or have new web agencies, and just, I guess it's like doing a lot of lunchtime conversations about this sort of stuff. So, yeah, why not record a podcast, eh?
Why not? We have the technology. So there's a list as long as our arms about what is involved and what you need to do to actually run a digital marketing agency. So I think probably one of the first questions that you would really need to ask is why? Why do you want to set one up? What's the purpose? Is it because you really love digital marketing and you just can't get enough of it and you love helping businesses with their digital marketing? Or is it just because it seems like a hot topic, or, there's a lot of people that seem to be starting them these days? So yeah, why do you want to get involved? Why did you want to start a digital marketing agency, Brendan?
I was going to ask you first, Ed, but
too late.
Well, I used to have exactly the same as you, pretty much.
Yep.
Yeah, I used to have an IT company, so doing small business IT support for people and such. And we also had a big online store, so we had a huge online store that was doing millions of dollars a year in revenue, and that was all primarily through there was no real social networks at the time, so it was via SEO and basically like forums. It would have been the social media of the day. So that's how I got started in kind of the online marketing thing, and that was early 2000s. So I didn't know what SEO was, but we knew if we changed certain things on the website, like these title and meta description fields, we'd really no idea what we're doing. We're stabbing in the dark, but we knew if we changed these fields, we could rank higher on Google. So that's kind of where I started. So that was like 2002, 2003, something like that. Mm-hmm. So fast forward to 2008 when we finished at those businesses, both of them. People started asking me about this. Well, people call it CEO sometimes, but it's SEO. But they were like, Can you help me with this CEO thing?
Or SOE.
I'm like, SOE. So, I kind of started doing that bits and pieces. And, it grew pretty quickly. It had become like a fully, from a kind of freelance thing here and there in 2008 to 2010, which I think is, or maybe 2009 when I met you. Had become like a full, a proper business, like a full-time thing with staff and people. So that's how I got into it. And it kind of, it's very relevant to IT. It's not the same as IT, and there's a lot of IT guys who try and sell their clients' websites. But for me, it was kind of a blend of technology and the commercial skills I had and the selling skills I had. So that's kind of in a way fell into it, but it was really based on my experience and what had been doing up to that point. I didn't like you said, kind of is like the hot new business to start. Everybody wants to be an online marketing consultant because they kind of see it as it's a bit of I guess it's kind of perceived as a gold rush right now. It's, people jump in. It's like anything, like around the 2010 mark, everybody was a social media consultant.
Well,
so.
I think they still are, but it seems that way to me anyway.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's how it came about. And, over time it's grown, and it really took off when we both when we started doing workshops. That joint venture we started in 2010 to do workshops and training for small business owners all around the place. Which became an easy way to get in front of customers, but probably even better was just it kind of really reiterated how much the typical small business owner doesn't know when it comes to technology. They don't know what Skype or Dropbox or all these other things are. They're starting from a pretty low base. So I guess that was a great way to get in front of those people and understand what they needed as well, right? And where they were in terms of the market and their business as well.
Yeah, exactly. So I thought very similar in terms of your starting and my starting, because I was in the same scenario. I had a computer supply business that I ran from the start of 2001 through to the sort of early 2003. And I had no staff. It was just me. And I wasn't overly in the technical side of things. More, I was just supplying hardware, laptops and desktop systems, and the occasional bit of networking, but that was about it. And started using Google AdWords in about 2002 for myself, and then just in conversation, people would say, "Oh, what's that Google Words thing?" or whatever they would call it, Google AdWords, and then I would start helping them for free. I wasn't charging friends who had businesses to do it. And then the light bulb just went on and thought, this is potentially way more profitable, sort of less hassle, like computer stuff. You know what it's like with computer stuff, things break down, or you get a phone call and then, 7 o'clock at night and they can't turn something on or whatever it is. So it was all those sorts of constant hassles with computer related stuff. And it just sort of took over. So again, a bit like you, it wasn't really a conscious decision. I didn't just wake up one morning and go, wow, I really want to start a digital marketing agency. It sort of evolved. It became clear that it was a more enjoyable option, gave the ability to be and work pretty much anywhere and have an internet connection, other than maybe, meeting clients if you're doing that. So that was 2003 that we got started. So that was when AdWords marketing, which is what it was called back then, because that was the main thing that I was doing, was consulting with Google AdWords. And then it evolved, and then my business partner, Alan Stewart, came on board in around 2004, 2005, bringing on more of his skill set of stuff. And that's when we started doing web development and got into more things like that. And we were doing on-page SEO and various things for people. We weren't going to as much SEO advancery as you. You're the SEO guru. But yeah, it just sort of evolved, and it was still like it was the Wild West. I still think it is the Wild West, really. I mean, there's a lot of opportunity for agencies to deal with companies, but so that was how we got started. So we didn't really have a major why, but it evolved over time and became very clear why we want to do it. And still to this day, the flexibility of running this type of business is fantastic. The
thing that appealed to me about it versus running, so the IT company we had at the peak had 25 odd staff and 2 offices, and it was I guess in the IT space for me, you were it was just dealing with problems all day long. It was kind of this break fix kind of thing where you'd only talk to a customer if stuff was broken. So we're kind of dealing with, well, for lack of a better word, you're dealing with negativity all day because something's broken and people can't do their work and they're not happy, and then they see you and they associate you with not being happy, and it's just, I don't want to sound woo, but it's kind of like just this bad energy all the time, and it's kind of this there's a level of pressure that's always there, a level of stress.
Yeah, absolutely. And when the phone rang very rarely for a good reason.
Yeah, but like with the online marketing, there's definitely stress, like websites go down and stuff. But it's like in IT, if you do a great job and you get the thing fixed, you bring the customer from a -10 in their emotion back to a 0. They're just, it's working, that's great, you've done your job. Whereas in the online marketing space, you do a good job, you bring someone from a, let's say like a 0 is the middle, you bring them up to a 10, like you have an ad campaign that works really well, they're stoked, their business grows, everybody's happy, they're happy with you, you're doing a great job, you have an ongoing relationship that works for both parties. So that was one of the things.
And they tell others.
Yeah, exactly. Like that really, that was probably, like when I talk to people, that's like one of the big differences between then and now is just that energy. Like there's definitely stress and things break and things don't work, and from time to time you have unhappy customers. But that's probably one of the biggest differences in the business, and the bit that I liked about it as well. Like you're still solving problems in a way, but they're just everybody's happier basically.
Yeah, and one of the advantages, and I'm assuming the majority of your customers would have been locally based, like unless you had customers in Melbourne and you were using other people to sort them out. But is that right? Most of your customers were in the Perth area?
Yeah. When we started, they were mostly local. I mean, that was a long time ago. That was 10 years ago. So today, everybody, it's the world's a different place. People are comfortable doing video calls and doing business over the phone. Whereas back then, you had to do a lot of in-person meetings and things like that. So now we have customers everywhere. Like we have customers all across Australia and customers in the US. Now it's not necessarily easy with the time zone because there's basically 12-hour time difference. But
you don't physically need to be there. And a lot of IT stuff, you physically need to have someone there. And it's changed now a lot with all the cloud-based stuff. And you're probably, quite a few of the services that you're providing and we provide now, they were not available back then. They weren't even an option. It was all physically based hardware stuff for email servers and various bits and pieces.
I mean, you need a 5 or 10 grand server and then 5 or 10 grand worth of software licenses on top of it to make it work for what now you get today with a $5 a month Google Apps account, effectively.
Yeah, it's a joke. And even if you've got to pay someone, like you or me to help sort that out, then that's not really that expensive. So, look, ultimately, setting up a business, any business, very rarely is there any overnight success. You've got to put some hard work into it. There's sometimes late nights, some blood, sweat and tears, so it's not like it's all sunshine and petals and roses. You've got to put in some grind and things don't work out as you want them to, like any other sort of business. But it comes really to the next point of having the right thought process, the right mindset, however you want to call it, and having a good way of thinking about your business and having some sort of strategy in place that allows you to see where you're going and have some goals. So there's really 2 points there coming up next, is having that mindset and also having some clearly defined goals of what you're trying to achieve. What is it you want to do with the business? Is it to generate a certain type of lifestyle? Is it to generate a certain amount of money? Is it to build a huge business that you can then on-sell, if that's what you want to do? So, and you and I have been talking about that sort of stuff recently. And so what are your thoughts there in terms of having the right mindset and goals?
Yeah, I mean, I guess when you start any small business, the initial goal is to make a livable income from it. But yeah, I agree. If you go in, I mean, you need to be careful. Like, it seems to be like we talked about, like it's the fad right now. It's like one of the hot businesses to start. Just like creating your own app 5 years ago was the thing to do. Now running a marketing agency is the thing to do. But yeah, I think you need to walk into it being clear with what you want out of it, because it is while there are plenty of training products out there, even like Google has free training, the Google partner certifications, they have free training to teach you about AdWords and stuff. There's a lot of business science that goes into a lot of this stuff. It's not simply ranking a business at the top of Google or running an ad campaign. There's a whole, I find that most of the work I do with clients now is really around commerciality, business fundamentals, marketing strategy, business strategy, and that sort of thing. And all the rest of it is really just mechanical. And that's actually what I like. I prefer doing that kind of high level strategy stuff, and our team take care of a lot of the on the tools and tweaking websites and that sort of thing. But yeah, I mean, going into it with whatever the end goal is in mind, it's going to get you a better result. And there's all different sorts of agencies, right? You can be a one-man freelancer or consultant, and I mean, you can run a huge agency with tens or hundreds of people. We talked about we're opening an office next month, so we're changing. The team we've run a kind of remote work team for the last several years now, and we're changing that because as we grow, it's just some things are just better to have a team in person. So, it actually took a long time to come to that decision to decide. Right now, I would prefer separation between home and office, and to grow our team, it's just easier to do with an office. But the agencies come in all flavors and sizes and whatever. But I think you need to be clear as well, because you end up with a scenario where you take any client, and a lot of clients don't understand the value of this sort of stuff. Like while at the start, there's a tendency you got to pay the bills and have enough to eat or whatever, but there's a tendency to take any client for any price, which isn't necessarily good, because this stuff, it has to be profitable when you do it. You can't, you need to make money out of it, and the customer needs to, they need to be paying a fair price for fair value, I guess. So. Yeah,
I think that's where it's important that if you're going to be transitioning from doing one thing, you may have a job or whatever you're doing, and you're thinking of setting up an agency, to have some sort of buffer, at least six months of income put away, I would say minimum, so that you can make smarter decisions on your clients and not just taking on jobs for the money, because they never work out. The ones that you compromise on or do discounts on or go against your principles of what you typically would do, they are always the ones that come back and bite you and turn out to be a pain in the butt. So give yourself a bit of space. There's always two schools of thought: burn your bridges and then just go for it and run. But that's when I think typically you end up making poor decisions and taking on work that you typically wouldn't do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I have a criteria for clients as well. Like, there's some types of businesses that are going to work well for some types of marketing strategies, and some are going to be very difficult. They're going to need, there'll be some types of businesses where customers are actively searching for that product or solution or whatever it is. Like, people looking for a local dentist is going to be very different to, as say, an online store selling makeup or cosmetics. They're going to be two completely different marketing strategies. And I know for us, the dentist or medical professional is more our type of client, whereas the cosmetics business is not us at all, because that's like Instagram and Facebook ads and a totally different strategy, and is not suited to the way we work and our products and services. Yeah,
exactly. And we are very service-based, business-oriented for all the work we do. We don't take on e-commerce. E-commerce is just a pain in the backside, and people don't realize how much time goes into doing marketing for just a single product. There's almost as much time selling a single product as it is selling a service. And the product you might make $10 on, and the service you could make $1,000. So it's a very difficult space to be in my book, and it's one we chose not to actively be in.
Yeah, I do some e-commerce consulting, but we don't do SEO specifically for e-commerce businesses, because, like you said, take the dentist. The dentist might have 10 core services they offer, if that. So that's effectively 10. Let's say they have 10 services that need a marketing strategy, whereas an online store, even if it's a small online store, would have easily 100 products. That's 100 products you've got to do marketing for. It's a completely different approach. And then, yeah, I mean, you've got to look at your client's customer lifetime value. So if the client is selling $10 widgets, it's going to be very hard for unless they have huge scale, it's going to be very hard for them to pay you a monthly fee of whatever it is, even at the low end, like $1,000 a month. So how many $10 widgets are they going to have to sell to make enough profit to cover a $1,000 a month consulting fee plus ad spend on top? They might have a few $1,000s of ad spend on top of that. So
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so some businesses just don't. The numbers don't stack up in terms of hiring outside help, or they just might not be for you. Like, there are some consultants who will work more like at a lower rate than that. We have our lowest plan, I think, starts at $7.95 a month for really small businesses.
Mm-hmm.
We can't deliver a result. We can't run a team and deliver a result kind of any lower than that. It just becomes too hard, especially when you throw in a few phone calls a month and the back and forth, and that burns a lot of time. It's it's difficult. And if you have those clients who are struggling to be profitable, even when they're performing really well in terms of business, that's probably not going to work as a client for you as a marketing agency, I think.
Yeah. So that really all comes under the heading of your focus. So what sort of business what business or businesses do you want to work with? What sort of niches do you want to be in? And are you going to have a specific skill set that your agency focuses on, like Facebook ads or Google AdWords, or just doing WordPress development, or et cetera, et cetera? So nothing to say you can't do all of them. Like, we do the majority of all those things in our business, but we didn't in the beginning. We focused on a couple of things, and then we expanded over time to fill the needs of some areas that we were having frustrations with trying to get other people to do. So, but I think starting off, work out, maybe you just want to target the medical sector and do stuff for doctors and dentists, or maybe you want to do the law firms, or who knows? It's endless what you could choose, and just go through and start trying to get customers in those areas. But it is easier. It's really logical when you say it, but it's easier working with companies that have got some sort of marketing budget, and they're not scraping the pennies to try and do some form of marketing. So, unfortunately, the micro business end of town is a difficult place to be in, and not an area I would recommend going.
Yeah, that's about qualifying. When you start a sales conversation with someone, is you need to qualify them. You have to make sure they're a good fit before you sell them anything. Make sure they're a good fit for your business.
Absolutely,
it's one of the most powerful questions I learned in terms of a selling process, is asking them what is their budget, what budget that they have in mind, and there's no right or wrong answer, but that'll tell you a whole load of things about that business with that simple question. Like that, it'll be clear straight away whether they actually have a marketing budget or whether they don't. And like you said, a business that has a marketing budget, they understand the commercials around, a marketing spend generates more money than it costs. And sometimes you have to test it. Like, sometimes a marketing campaign doesn't work, and then you have to look into why it doesn't work. There's a whole load of things that come off that question. Whereas a business that doesn't have a marketing budget, then you have to, work that out with them. What can they, work back from? What is their customer lifetime value? How much can they afford to spend to acquire a customer? How much do they have to spend in free cash?
Yeah.
And there's a whole load of things that come off that as well. Because then you've got two sales to make, right? You've got to sell them on the fact that they should have marketing budget, and then you've got to sell them on your services and whatever the strategy is you come up with, and that sort of thing.
Yeah, and very rarely have they ever been asked those questions, or know the answers to them, or have thought about them, and they really have no clue what's involved. And unfortunately, there's a bit of a free mentality. A lot of people think they can just do free Facebook posts and various things, and that's what their marketing is going to be. So when you actually say, well, it's going to cost you X amount for us to set this up and do this, or X amount to do this, some of them look at you like you've got 5 heads, because they've never even thought that that's going to be an issue. but then they very quickly come to the realization there's two options in the marketing space for a small business. You learn to do it yourself, or a staff member learns to do it, which takes a lot of time upskilling, and it's never as easy as it looks in terms of AdWords, SEO, Facebook ads. There's a lot of in-depth things, and just some small things can end up costing you a lot of money if you get them wrong. And the next option is paying someone to do it. And then you've got a whole variation of prices that potentially you're looking at from someone who's just started, like, brand new individual person who's hung up their shingle to say, yes, we do Facebook ads, or a company that's got 100 staff that does Facebook ads. Now, there's going to be two very different pricing strategies in there, and one's not necessarily better than the other, but that's what you're looking at.
Yeah, and then just a thought on because a lot of consultants shy away from them. They think that charging, and a lot of business owners are like shocked when you're like, oh, SEO services for a small business are $1,000, $2,000 a month, and then you have AdWords on top of that, so you might have an ad spend of a few thousand a month, and then they're looking at a spend of $5,000 a month or more. But if you think about it in terms of staff, even a entry to mid-level staff member is, say, $40,000 a year salary, $45,000 a year salary. So if you look at it like that, that staff member costs you $3,000 to $4,000 a month just to be there, if not more. Like they need equipment, they need a desk, they need everything else, need everything they need to work, and then training on top of that. So if you're having a staff member do that, and an in-house marketing person, or you're doing it yourself, like you can't, your time isn't free as a business owner or a manager.
Of course not.
Like that's still like for a entry-level staff member who doesn't have experience across a whole range of technologies and customers and industries and whatever else is costing you $3,000 or $4,000 a month at the low end. And then on top of that, if they're learning and they're not effective, then the marketing strategy isn't necessarily working either. So you've got another cost on top of that you're not really seeing. So it's not a very simple question to answer, I don't think, around the pricing and the cost and things like that. There's a lot of commercials that kind of sit around it, I think.
Yeah, exactly. So, and that's where having some sort of strategy and plan at the beginning and working out these things will help you make those decisions.
Mm-hmm.
So another thing which is vitally important, and although we're talking about digital marketing and advertising, etc., probably one of the best ways that I think both you and I have built up our businesses is through networking and relationship building. That's where I get the majority of our business is through that, and repeat business, and some from the internet. But that's typically where we get our best clients. So I think if you're starting out, one of the first things you should be doing is going to networking events, getting your name out there, pressing the flesh, meeting people, finding out what are their pain points, what they need help with, how you can solve their problems. And sometimes it may take doing some pro bono stuff, and not charging these people for the work, just to get a bit of a foot in the door. If you're brand spanking new, it's sometimes hard to get the first paying customers. But if you've got some good testimonials from people, they may or may not have necessarily paid for the work, but getting the testimonials that you've done good work can help. So there's all sorts of different ways you can go about it, but I firmly believe relationship building, networking is a critical key to any business, whether it's new or old, and that you should never really stop doing that sort of stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, totally agree. We're the same. Most clients come from not from the website or online, but from referrals or in-person stuff, or someone knows someone or whatever. Yeah, and it's right when you have you're starting out or have a small agency, it can be expensive to get customers off the web or do advertising or things like that. So yeah, and it can also be very competitive. Like if you're trying to rank for SEO agency or AdWords agency or something like that, that's a very competitive space to play in. So it can be hard to get traction quickly there. And then you're playing in a space that if you're wanting to get customers straight from Google as an agency, then you're competing with half a dozen other agencies that are in the search results as well. That it can be hard to, especially as a small business, it can be hard to differentiate, because big agencies can look really great and have fancy looking websites and things like that. Doesn't necessarily they do great work. Quite often they do horrible work, but that's not the perception the customer gets or the client gets when they see the website.
Yeah, too true. And that's what really comes into building up your brand identity and getting people to see you in a different light. What's your key differentiator points of your business? What is it you can offer the client that some of these other organizations and agencies offer? So working on that, and that's a bigger picture thing, and it's a really big subject, the whole building a brand. We did a great episode with Peter Engelhardt on the podcast. We can put a link in the show notes for that for people to check out. So that's also something that you should have in your list of things to do, is working on that brand identity and building that up. So people will think of you in a certain light. Again, that depends on what your overall goals are and what you're trying to achieve as to how you're going to be seen in the marketplace.
Mm-hmm.
So
what else should we talk about?
We've got lots of things on this list, mate, and we could go all day, but we'll try and keep it under an hour, because otherwise we'll get people complaining.
Should we talk about mix it up a bit? So there's probably two things we need to talk about: is client fulfillment, like fulfilling the work,
mm-hmm.
and probably just some tools as well, tools and tactics, maybe.
Yep. Okay.
Which one do you want to tackle first? What do you think?
You go, mate.
Well, what about fulfillment? Let's talk about that, because it's related to tools and tactics.
Definitely.
We struggled for many years with different, I don't know I think you use Basecamp, but we I think we tried 8 different project management systems before Trello. We settled on Zendesk.
We were using Trello. That was our main platform.
Yeah. Yeah, so we use Zendesk now. Zendesk and Process Street are the two tools that we use primarily, and some Google Docs as our fulfillment tools. A lot of different agencies use different things. But I like Zendesk. We use it in 2 ways. We have our internal jobs in there. So what we call internal tickets, and then we have customer-facing tickets. So the customer-facing tickets are effectively like projects, and then the internal tickets are like tasks on those projects. And we have a bunch of add-ons for Zendesk, a bunch of apps that facilitate that. But we liked it because most of the stuff we do back and forth with customers is via email, so it was a good way to keep it all in one place. And we also wanted a system that could deal with big jobs and small jobs equally well. And had found that we tried Basecamp. I think the newer versions of Basecamp are a lot better, but back in the day, the version of it was no good for little jobs. So that was problematic. Yeah, I'm not a huge fan of Basecamp. And Process Street we've started using in the last year, maybe last 2 years, which has been amazing. Like, it's been a game changer. So it's kind of like a process management system and checklist system all in one. So the processes are effectively templates that become checklists. So it's made things a lot easier, and it just eliminates it. It has eliminated a lot of the dropping balls, and as long as the checklist is done, then we know things are done correctly. So those are really our 2 tools. And Google Docs as well is great. Rather than we share Google Docs with clients rather than big long emails back and forth, which is a lot easier. It's a lot better for collaboration.
We use that as well. We've mainly been using Trello, but we're experimenting with a different one at the moment because we found we were hitting limitations with Trello. So there's one we're using at the moment called Glip. So I don't know whether you heard of Glip.
Yeah. Well, what was the Trello? You were just hitting too many clients or too much work, or?
Yeah, and it wasn't really. I just don't think it was that refined as a lot of the other ones that we were looking at. And we looked at ones like Asana, and I can't remember the other one. But the thing is, my business partner Alan and the team, they're the ones that sort of mainly work in that, because my main role in the company is business development. So A lot of the stuff, the day-to-day stuff, I'm in there and I get notified on various things, but those guys use the actual tool way more than I do.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, they just didn't like Trello for some particular reason. And I think we tried something else. It is a tricky thing because there are many shiny objects with project management, sort of staff management tools, and finding one that works with you. You just got to be persistent and work through it before you decide to change onto something else.
Yeah, we've customized our Zendesk a lot, but it's not we're on one of the higher level plans now. So including that, so we have a bunch of apps, mainly from a company called SweetHawk, that kind of fill gaps in a lot of Zendesk functionality. Like it adds reminders and it adds calendar. We can schedule work in a calendar and things like that. And I think, we're paying like something like, including the apps, like $70 or $80 a month US per user. So, it's not cheap, but it also at the same time, staff aren't cheap either. So inefficiency is not cheap. Like a typical staff member is at the low end costs $20 or $30 an hour. So, that's not really, if you like that's the way I look at it. Like at these tools, if they're going to, $80 a month might seem expensive per user, but you think about it compared to the hourly cost of a staff member, that's not really much to save a whole bunch of time and just make communication a lot easier. So that's like the software we use probably eliminates a whole, several staff members with all the automation that's in Zendesk. Zapier we use a lot. So Zapier we do a lot, like some of the checkouts, some of our lower end products and are connected to Zendesk via Zapier. Mm-hmm. So when a customer orders something, then it go and does a whole bunch of stuff and it adds a whole bunch of tickets and checklists into tickets in Zendesk. So that's really good. And
that's the thing. A lot of these tools can actually save you a lot of money because they do replace what a staff member typically would do. So really that comes down to the question is, do you want staff? Do you need staff? And yes, if you want to grow to a certain level, you cannot do any more as a single person to get past that because you come up with the time restrictions and you've got to have a life. So at the end of the day, you can leverage your time with technology and you can leverage your time with people. And now those people don't necessarily have to be full-time staff. You could outsource to different companies. You can, you can get places like Freelancer to provide the work or whatever it is you want to find that's actually going to be getting yourself leveraged. So that's another thing. Do you want to have staff? Some people don't ever want to have staff. They just don't want to take on the responsibility of doing that. And I can understand why that would be not appealing to some people. So what are your thoughts on that one?
Yeah, I mean, that's going to be hard to grow without people, right? It's it can seem, I'm kind of like in two minds about this. So, I've had 25 staff as a business and I've also been a solo freelancer. And I think there's a happy medium in between. With our company right now, I don't think I want to grow. I think we have we'll have 7 people next week in total. And I don't think I want to grow much past 10 staff, largely because once you get over that, like one person can really only have 7 or 10 direct reports, 7 so people that they manage directly. And once you get above that, then you need a structure of management. And also once you get above kind of 10 staff, the business changes. So, when you have 20 people, there's always someone who's sick. There's always someone who's away on holidays. And then you probably have someone who's had a falling out with someone else or that have some conflict with someone else in the team because it's inevitable. You put 20 people in a room, there's going to be 2 personalities that don't really gel that well together. So from my experience and my skill set, I've found that once you get kind of above that 10 mark, it becomes a different business. There's new things to manage. HR becomes a much bigger piece of the puzzle because
definitely
you get over that magic number where you need to have more managers in the business to manage. They become like instead of one team, they become multiple teams in effect. So that's my personal view. I think you got to be careful with the staff thing. Like I understand, there's a lot of different facets to it. Like it's if you take people on, it's your responsibility. Depending on where those staff are. Like some people, we have a team in the Philippines, we have a team in Australia. Like it's those people have families and kids and lives and mortgages and commitments that they're all relying on you. So I don't hire staff flippantly because they're relying on me. Their life is we're basically they're making money from, they're getting paid when the business makes money. So there's a lot of responsibility there taking on staff as well. And then on the other side, you can't run yourself into the ground. Like you can't do everything. Like you need a team if you're going to grow beyond being a freelancer. So
yeah, definitely. And that's really comes back to that original few points that we made is why are you doing it? What are your goals? What are you trying to achieve? And your goal could be to make $100,000 a year, have a small consultancy business, be mobile and be able to travel and run it all from the road and work from your laptop or whatever it is, so that may be all you want to do, to achieve, I should say. And you can do that, with a limited amount of staff or outsourcing. You don't need to have a permanent place set up. You don't need to have permanent staff. But if you want to grow a business and sell it for $20 million, well, yeah, you're going to have to go through those pain points and take on HR managers and various things to get to that level to have a business that you're going to be able to sell for that sort of price. You're not going to get a $20 million sale from $100,000 income. So would be nice, but that's not how the world works. So yeah, it comes down to that. So that's sort of the staffing question really feeds back to the original few points that we're talking about. So
yeah, well, let's talk about financial systems and financial controls. So what do you use? What do you use to bill clients? How do they pay you? What accounting system are you using?
Well, a really good friend of mine that I do a podcast with called Brendan kept telling me I should get on to using this tool called Xero with an Xero. And I'd known about it for years, and I'd been using MyOb, but we were using MyOb for the business as an accounting bookkeeping tool, and it was a piece of software that was installed on a particular laptop. It wasn't cloud-based. It could only be done on that laptop, so the person had to turn up and do it there all the time. It was just really, really old tech. So probably, I don't know, it would be 4 years ago now, we went on to using Xero. So we do all of our invoicing through Xero. It's automated, reminders for monthly billing. Also, we've got it's connected to Stripe for credit card payments if people choose to do credit card payments. Really easy. Our accountant has login access to it, so they can go in and do stuff where they are. Our bookkeeper logs in. All our invoices just go in there. Pretty much all of our invoices or receipts are digital now. We've got practically nothing that is physically in paper. Like I don't print anything off my printer anymore. Literally, It doesn't get used. I can't remember the last time I printed anything off of my printer. So anything that comes in that's digital, it gets put into the inbox in Xero. That's the invoice, and the bookkeeper processes it through there. So it's pretty streamlined. It's great. And I know you use Xero, but you use a couple other things as well, don't you?
Yeah. So we've got Xero.
ChargeBee,
same as you.
Something else.
ChargeBee. Yeah. ChargeBee. It's this. The product is pretty good. The name is terrible. So we use ChargeBee for a lot of. We still use Xero too for a lot of the invoicing and recurring billing, and we use ChargeBee as well. One thing I liked about ChargeBee is you can manually set up recurring billing, or customers can order off the web. So it's really good. It's probably out of all the recurring billing tools that were website integratable, it was probably the best at the time.
Is that the main difference you would use it? So because Xero does automated recurring billing for accounts, but you're using it more as a online ordering recurring billing, so different thing?
Yeah, so Xero is great for like our retainer marketing clients because those are bigger invoices, and usually those are so the way, let's take a step back. The way I look at the clients and customers, we have clients who we have relationships with and ongoing relationships, and those are typically, they're like on a monthly recurring retainer, whatever it is, and we manage different things for them. And then we have customers, and we pretty much sell them products, and it's more of a transactional relationship. So we almost have two businesses in one, and those products are things like hosting, and we have a bunch of other smaller services, like we have a speed fix service, WP Speed Fix, where we fix WordPress speed problems. So I kind of think of them as two separate parts of the business. One's a relationship kind of setup where we sell services and it's a relationship, and then one's more like products or productized services where they're transactions. So the transactional stuff typically is ChargeBee. So most of our hosting billing is in ChargeBee. Customers can sign up on the web for hosting through ChargeBee. So that's where most of that happens. So yeah, that's the difference. So Stripe is integrated with both. ChargeBee talks back to Xero, so any invoices that come out of ChargeBee get inserted into Xero. What else? We've got PayPal as well that we take payments on. And then we have a couple of other more simple checkouts. We use Gravity Forms for checkouts on some pages for some of the stuff that's not recurring. So ChargeBee doesn't do non-recurring stuff very well, which kind of annoys me because I just love to use it for everything as a checkout. And I got an email this week that they're changing their pricing structure, and they're like charging a percentage of the revenue you put through, which I really hate. I hate any software that wants a cut of your revenue. Like, to me, that's like just total crap. Because it's not their business. They want it. It's just a money grab. Like,
you're dead right.
I'm happy to pay for their, like, I don't charge customers a percentage of their revenue when I do work.
No.
So like, it kind of pisses me off when these software tools that it's just pure money grab because they don't cost any more to run. It's like a piece of software that runs on a server. So I'm kind of like, okay, ChargeBee is great and I would recommend it to anybody. But now I'm like, well, now they want like 0.6% of your revenue. I'm like, no, I don't want to pay you that. So
no, and I think they're going to lose business on that. And that's okay. So you're using Xero and you're using ChargeBee, and there's probably something else of an equivalent. There's always 2 or 3 versions of some type of software or service. It's very rarely that they're just the only one. And you look at the plethora of different tools you can connect to things like Xero or any of your marketing products, like if you're using ClickFunnels or Lead Pages, which are landing page marketing funnel tools. It's quite amazing all the different companies that exist out there and services that exist in things like ChargeBee. So you're never stuck with one. So what else in terms of that's really it. Bookkeeping, it's not that complicated. Xero is quite expandable.
We have a bookkeeper. I'd say I see a lot of people that in like friends and people in business doing their own bookkeeping. I'm like, that's probably I think that's the first thing we outsourced or hired a person to do because
for us too.
Yeah, I'm like, I hate it. It needs to be done. Like the books need to be up to date, and like regardless what I want from a legal and statutory compliance and paying tax, they need to be up to date, like legally. So that was I think the first person I hired in this business was our bookkeeper. Yeah.
I'm amazed at how many people don't though, because our bookkeeper tells some horrid stories. She never mentions names of businesses, of course, but she just get some of the scenarios that she gives and people who haven't paid their BAS for like 7 years or have millions of dollars in taxes owing and stuff like that, and get themselves into all these weird positions. So keep on top of this sort of stuff is critical as well. It's great that you've got Xero in the tool, but you need to use it and you need to make sure that the revenue you're taking in, you're putting aside the BAS payment money. That 10%, put away that 10% in a separate fund somewhere that you're not going, every quarter comes around or whatever, how often you're paying your BAS and you go, oh shit. We've been in that scenario before.
Yeah, well, we talked, like the financials are important, like you need to run. That was probably one of the biggest lessons I learned in running a business, that the numbers are important. And we talked, like, I think, I don't know the episode number, but we did talk with Lisa Reed on an earlier episode about that sort of stuff and having numbers up to date. And
We'll link to
the
that.
3 different types of accountants and things like that. Because it's really, I mean, you need to know whether you're making profit. Just because there's dollars in the bank doesn't mean you actually that is profit. So yeah, I think having the financial systems and reporting in place is really important. And not treating, especially when you start, not treating the business account as your personal piggy bank. Having your business finances separate to your personal finances, and also running. Once you got some momentum, actually setting up a corporate entity to run the business under, because there's a whole bunch of liability issues if you're not running so in Australia, a proprietary limited company, because it gives you protection. If you screw something up and a customer decides to sue you, or you lose their data or something, the company structure provides you with protection. It's not just a tax vehicle. There's a whole bunch of other legal things it does.
Of course, yeah.
Which then is also important to point out that you probably should have some type of insurance if you're dealing with this stuff as well, because things happen, servers burn down, problems occur. So, we have
professional indemnity insurance. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and some clients, some of our bigger clients actually want to see the insurance certificate before they'll sign contracts. So we actually needed to up. I think we have $5 million of insurance, and we had to up it to $10 million at one point for one client. So I mean, it's not just you don't decide to start an agency one day and put out your shingle and you're done. There's a lot of legal and compliance things that you need to be aware of, and it's being ignorant is not a defense once the ATO or the IRS come knocking at your door wanting their tax money. So
exactly. So so have a good bookkeeper, a good accountant, and access to a good lawyer that knows this sort of business is very wise. So speaking of invoices and various things, pricing. Now, pricing is an interesting one, because I look back to what I was charging when I first started 14 odd years ago, and it's quite laughable. It was 14 years ago, so okay, count inflation and all that sort of stuff, but still it was finding my feet, so I was sort of experimenting and trying to get as many people on board as I could, so I was trying to limit that price barrier. But it really comes down to there's no real strict pricing structure out there. Like, you can go and get a quote for a website as an example, and we've had people that would pay us $10,000 for a website that we would build, and they've gone and paid someone before they came to us 50 or 60 grand for the same website. Yet, that being said, you could probably get someone in the Philippines or India to build the same site we charge 10 grand for $1,000. Now, there's pros and cons to all of those different areas, and it really depends on what you're trying to achieve and what sort of interaction you want to have with the web developers, all that sort of thing. So there really is no one size fits all, is there?
No, definitely not. And like for me, like I said before, because a lot of people don't want to talk to clients. They don't want to have to get on the phone and be accountable to people and, that sort of thing, and meet with clients. And you need to be careful about what you're selling them. So you can sell them again, it comes back to, is it a transactional relationship or is it a, full consulting sort of relationship? So if you want to be charging thousands of dollars a month, you can be pretty sure that a customer is going to want to get on a phone call and before they buy and talk to you about it, and then on a regular basis, talk to you about what's going on and reviewing reports and, strategy and everything like that. So yeah, there's definitely there's a lot of people who say you should be charging, you'll see like specialist sales consultants tell you they shouldn't be charging any less than $5,000 a month, but that's a different type of relationship with a customer to a $500 a month relationship. Because one is more, they're basically getting a productized service or even products, and one is like a complete, just fully consulting relationship where it's all customized and nothing's really off the shelf or running through a standard process. So there's no right or wrong answer, but you need to be careful. Like, you can't, someone gives you $5,000 a month for marketing and then, another 10 or 20 grand a month on ad spend. On top of that, they're going to want some love and consulting and customization and they're going to want to see results. So you need to have the conversation. You need to be having the conversations with them to get those results, I think. So you can't just, put up an online ordering form and people are going to put through $5,000 orders and, never want to talk to you kind of thing. So, I think you need to be mindful of that. And then, people don't really order. It's, you're not going to get a cold visitor to the website who hits the order button on a $2,000 a month service without learning a bit more about you and your strategy and how you work and, how you're going to deliver results for them. Like you can do that for low-end services like hosting. We have people who buy hosting straight off the website, but it's, people want to have a talk. Like there's a consulting services at the thousands of dollars a month price range.
And look, and that's interesting that you bring that up in terms of a fairly critical thing that we haven't even mentioned yet, and it sort of does. The irony would be if you didn't have this for the type of business that we're talking about, it would be a bit weird. You really need to have a web presence, so you need to have a website. So you've got a budget for getting a website done, and if you're a website developer who's starting an agency, well, easy peasy, you go and build your own site. But you need to have a website, and you need to have it set up so it's easy for them to communicate with you. No doubt you've had this where you go to a website and trying to find how to get in touch with someone can be quite challenging. Contact pages are hidden. There's no phone numbers. There's no live chat. So having live chat is good using something like Drift. Drift
has been great. Like that's like my secret weapon of the last 12 months. Just even to interact. It's not that
secret because you told me about it.
Well, just as we've talked about Zopim in the past and other live chat tools, and I just
not as good.
Yeah, the interface on Drift is fantastic from the visitor to the website perspective, and just the back end of it. So easy on mobile, and you can do live chats anywhere basically, and it has a lot more automation. It has a lot of automation built into it as well that you can do different magical things.
Yeah, and not expensive per user, considering that it only has to work once a month and it's paid for itself 10 times over, really. Well, depending on what you're selling, of course, but even on low end things, it's worth having that. And great tool. So you need to have. I come across this often all the time, even with people who are getting into this space or considering it, thinking that they can run the whole thing off a Facebook page. It's like, no, you can't. It's one of the first things people do is go and check your website and your web presence and what you've got out there. So you do need to have a website. You really can't be promoting digital marketing agency and not have a website. So yeah, definitely. All right, we're almost at an hour. So a couple of last things would be making sure you've got some sort of reporting tools in place and things for budgeting and forecasting. What do you guys use?
For customer reports, so we use Raven Tools. I think we've had the subscription since we started for like 8 years or 10 years or something.
Yeah.
Well, I don't think we were around for 10 years, but like somewhere between 8 and 9 years we've had
it has
that.
been.
It's always,
it started in 2009, I think. So.
Right. Okay. Yeah, because it was fairly new when we started using it. Mm-hmm. I like it for it pulls a lot of data from Google Analytics, but it gives it makes really nice PDF reports that are a lot easier for customers to kind of understand than Google Analytics, which most of our clients don't have the patience or time to be digging in there, and it's just hard to get like in Raven we have a monthly report that says this is what happened this month and this is compared to last month, so it's really easy to get it. It's kind of a management level report. We don't really do some rank tracking, but we don't focus on that because that's only really part of the puzzle. Like we can get, by changing things on the website, like adding a phone number to the header, we can get more inquiries and the rank doesn't need to change. So try not to get customers to focus on ranking so much, but more like inquiries and how things are going from the business perspective. Mm-hmm. We've tried over the years, I don't know what your thoughts are, but we've tried to do various conversion tracking, phone call tracking kind of things, and we haven't had great success with it. It's always kind of come down to customers saying, well, if we know it's working if we're getting more business, and we just know it shows in the numbers.
Yeah. I mean, the phone call side's always a bit of a sketchy thing, and trying to get exacting measurements from that. It's easier if you're doing online sales and you can do the conversion tracking through the website, and that's pretty damn accurate in these days with what's available through analytics and AdWords and Facebook tracking stuff. But the telephone stuff, there seem to be getting better systems out there in place to do it. But I agree. Typically, someone engages you to do work for them, and they haven't been getting any phone calls, and their phone's not ringing, blah blah blah. And then you start doing work from doing ads, doing SEO campaigns, and then their phone starts ringing off the hook. There's really only one reason that's happened. so, and they're happy. Look, as long as they're busy. And that's working, and you can demonstrate in some way, shape, or form that the stuff you're doing is converting, then that's good. But
yeah, do you guys do any phone tracking?
No, we're starting to look into it. Google seems to be getting better with what they're providing, and there's a couple of new tools around now that, off the top of my head, I can't remember what they are. I was looking at one the other day that seems to be getting better, but I don't think there's any great solution at the moment.
There's no magic bullet. I think because a lot of bigger agencies throw these fancy reports around, and the reports can be useful, but it does really come back to at the end of the day, like I know with our business, like I know whether marketing's working. I don't even need to look at a conversion chart. I can look at my financials and look at the number of sales that have come through, and you can just tell. It's a bit different. Like where there's depending on how commercially mature the client is and marketing spends and things like that, and their own internal reporting, it can be useful. But yeah, it's one report, but it's not this. I think it's and software companies that run these kind of provide these reporting tools kind of guilty of making it out like it's some magic bullet solution that if you have phone call tracking, clients will love you. But yeah, at the end of the day, if the client's not getting more business, they're not going to be happy anyway, right?
Yeah. Exactly it. So, we use Raven tools as well, and there's one I'm looking at now that I'm contemplating having a try of called Report Guard, and I'm pretty sure I've mentioned it to you before. I haven't used it, so I can't recommend it at this moment in time. But they seem quite good. They integrate with social media, Facebook, Twitter, so they do all that sort of stuff as well for reporting for conversion. So. Anyway, there's always new tools coming out. We'll really only recommend ones that we've used or know in some way, shape, or form. So
there's a lot of reporting. Like there's a lot of things that do monthly reports. For me, Raven's great because it does it in a PDF and sends them an email. And I don't know. A lot of people have these live reporting dashboards where people log in, but I have like any clients that are. Where the client's like commercially mature and they're busy running their business, they don't really care. Like that, I think there's a tendency because we do online marketing all day long, we think that our customers think about it all day long, but they really kind of don't.
They definitely don't.
They're running their business. So we've tried stuff like that in the past where like you get this live dashboard to log in, but no one uses it. So
I totally agree. Yeah. A clearly laid out PDF is just as good, and they can scan through it and they've got it on record. They can look at it any time. Month by month is fine. So that's all good. So look, there's more things we could talk about. That's not the be all and end all of running a digital marketing agency, but it's some important things to think of. So hopefully we've dropped a few little nuggets in there for people who are getting started or thinking of doing it. We'd prefer you didn't. We don't want the competition, so piss off. No, only kidding. Competition is good. It keeps everyone innovating and coming up with new things. And that's another point that I had was try not to just copy what everyone else is doing. Be original. Come up with some different angles of how you do business. Or
I have a strategy. There's like 6 or 7 podcast episodes around episode 50, I think, where we share the strategy that we use, and that's our particular strategy for working with clients. And we had several different verticals. We shared the strategy, but different agencies have different strategies. So I don't know about you, but I've found that developing our own, that's part of our kind of our USP is that's our unique way of, that's our approach, and it works for us. And it works for our clients and the type of market. Now, it doesn't necessarily, it actually, I know some of the approach needs to be tweaked for a US market. So yeah, I for me, having a standardized approach that we use when we start talking to a customer is like a good starting point, and then we can customize it on top as required. So I think it's, you read so much stuff online about how it's done, and a lot of it's out of date or just plain wrong or someone's opinion. So forming an independent approach, I think, is important, because then that's something unique you're doing. You're doing it differently to your next competitor.
Yeah,
so.
And don't be afraid. Look, we get a fair amount of business from some of the bigger agencies in Perth that I've made connections with and know the owners of, and they send us work because our category of client is not big enough for them. They're after the top 10% businesses that they're dealing with. That's their strategy and what they're set up to deal with. So a lot of the people who do come to them, they just don't have the budget to work with these particular agencies. So they'll refer them on to us or someone else. But if you strike up a relationship with someone who's, some of the big players that are agencies, and see how you go from there, it doesn't do any harm to make yourself known, and you may end up getting some work from them as well if you have a good relationship with them. And again, it comes back to that networking, relationship building. So don't be shy doing that.
Cool.
All right, mate. Well, any questions, let us know in the comment section, or send us an email, or however you want to communicate with us. It's
fax. Send us a fax.
Send us a fax. Yes, we're a highly technologically advanced digital marketing agency that has a fax machine. I'm sure
fax is coming back, Ed. Fax.
Is
direct
it?
Fax. Yep.
Direct fax. All right. You've heard it first on
some fax machine spamming.
You've heard it first on the Digital Marketing Show. Fax is backs.
It's not even the Digital Marketing Show. You don't even know the name of your own podcast.
No, this is true. But we've been talking digital marketing, so it is a digital marketing show. But
it is a rename.
Yeah, we should. We'll call it a digital marketing show. That name's already taken by somebody else, so we can't get that domain. So that would suck. So thank you for listening. Thank you, Brendan, for your time and your wisdom.
Thanks, Ed.
And you've got some news to share, Brendan. I don't know whether, are you ready to share that news?
No, we can do it on another episode.
Another episode? Okay. Well,
I'm opening an office. That's news.
Yeah, that's news. Yeah. Brendan's opening an office. But there's other news. Well, you have to tune in to the next episode. Maybe Brendan will reveal that then. So
Next time.
There's a hook. We've got a hook on our podcast for the first time ever. All right. Thanks, guys. We'll speak to you soon. You've been listening to the Business Marketing Show. You can find us at businessmarketingshow.com, on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Stitcher.